right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Checkoff's Region 4 Town Hall. I'm Alicia Hodges. I'm the Concrete Masonry Checkoff's Program Director, and we are so excited to have you joining us today. Thank you so much for joining. We're going to go ahead and get started here in just a minute. I did want to let you all know that we are in a webinar style format, and so your cameras are off, your audio is muted, but we certainly would like you to continue to stay engaged throughout the webinar. If you could start by adding just where you're from into the chat so we know where you're joining us from. We would love to hear from you from that perspective. And then if you have any questions, drop those into the Q&A and we'll try to answer those along the way. We will reserve time at the end to make sure that we have time for questions. So I'm so sorry, I did just enable the chat. So go ahead and drop where you're from into the chat now. So thank you again for joining us. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the Region 4 RAC Chairman, Mark Wilhelms.
Wanted to make sure you were aware of who represents our region at the board level. Dwayne Auchan from Louisiana and Ryan Ross from Arizona are the two permanent board members. Mike Littrell and myself serve as alternates on the national board. And then at our region level, you can see the names there, and like to big shout out to Maroni Mejia, who's been working with me, keeping us on track, and is that voice that keeps us moving forward. And everybody's really, pitching in and has a role to play, and have really enjoyed getting this group working together. We started in 2023, and if you look at where we've come from, I'd say things are definitely moving in the right direction. Well, it's a little bit more than I know people are on here and think, well, you want to know how much money we took in and how are we spending it? But, there's a little bit more to it than that. I know everybody who's working at the region at the board level and with staff, we really want to make this successful. And when you look at trying to, move an entire industry forward and getting buy-in from everyone at every level, it's a big lift. And when we started working in 2022, 2020, fall of 2021 and 22, we began and first started to look at our strategic plan. And I believe the next slide will show, the core foundation of what's important to the Checkoff program. And this laid the foundation that got us a little further along the way. But then a lot of what happened last year, and a lot of this was driven by Kim Spawn, was to begin to develop this plan and set some specific key performance indicators, and so we could measure ourselves and measure our progress. And so last year, there was a lot of work that began to set those standards. And we looked at each of the 6 key focus areas that were prioritized from the outset with the Checkoff program. And Kim led a group of people both through these 6 committees as well as others to help really develop key performance indicators for each one of these areas, and then was presented to the board. Believe it or not, the board disagreed with some of them and pushed back, and it was a little bit of a yin and a yang. And but we've got a set of key performance indicators now for each area, and we are on our way to moving forward. But when I say we're on our way, that doesn't mean there's a direct progression upwards. As Kim puts it, it's a bit of that hockey stick theory of, we're laying the groundwork, we're getting the momentum behind us, and we're really beginning to look for those opportunities for growth that are going to shoot us forward. And the one objective that was set throughout this process of setting these KPIs was a target of 20% market share growth in 5 years. And based upon that 5-year objectives, each one of these areas began to develop their KPIs. When we look at what does that 20% market share growth look like, we hired an outside consultant to study what percentage of the market share we have right now. And when you look at all of the competitive materials that we go up against out there, we saw that we currently have about a 5.3% market share of these companion type materials. And when you add 20% growth on that, it takes it up to 6.4. And might not look like a sizable increase, but when we look a little bit later at some of the numbers here in a couple slides, you'll see just what type of growth that is going to be. Looking a little closer at these 6 key areas and beginning to look at the Checkoff program as a whole of increasing, CMU demand, you can begin to look at some of the KPIs that were set up. And these are going to be constantly monitored and measured with each and every program that we put in place. And we're going to use these KPIs to help evaluate programs that come in and do they meet the KPIs that we're targeting and what we want to do. Kim has taught all of us that these programs need to be transformational, and we want to make sure that we're all rowing the boat in the same direction. So it's important that we all kind of have an understanding of what this is and continue to measure ourselves. These are those 6 key market areas, and each committee that just go back one slide, each committee that was working on those was instrumental in setting these KPIs, and we dove deep and really challenged ourselves to make sure that these were obtainable, but also enough of a reach that we had to literally do the work to make them happen. And if everything flows right, and if everything runs as planned, what does 20% increase in market share growth look like? A big part of what we're doing and the reason for the call today is that we know we can't get there without keeping great communication with the investors and also being involved with the education of our marketplace. So having your attendance today is tremendous. Again, thank you for your time of being here. And on the investor side, we want to make sure that at the end of this 5-year program that when we ask 50 different producers, can they name at least one Checkoff program? We want to be sure that they are able to respond with a definitive answer. Ultimately, what we're going with, and obviously what I've just showed you is too much behind the scenes talk, but when we put it all together into our marketing, design support, educational, and technical, what we hope is we're speaking with one voice to the AEC community. And that's our goal, to have that single vision that architects see is the beauty of block. So a lot of work up until that point. We wanted you to have some background on it. And again, if there's any questions, please enter them in the chat, and we'll try to cover them towards the end. Until that time, though, Kim, could you give us an update on financials and where we're at since inception and year to date?
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Appreciate all your leadership. And I know this RAC in particular is very focused on building your programs in Region 4 to match those strategic goals and those KPIs. So I think that's a big kudos to Mark, you, and Maroney and your leadership with the RAC. So thanks for that. On to financials. So if you see here, we're looking at a Q1 result of about 2.3 million and a life to date, which is 8 quarters or roughly 2 years. We're at just about 22 million. So looking at about 11 million a year that we're collecting in assessments. And if we take a look at year over year, I do want to first remind you guys that the Checkoff's goal is not to increase your sales, but rather to increase market share. So with fluctuation in the economy and in the markets, you may see fluctuations like this variance that we were down almost 11%. We will be looking at, through Mark mentioned, M&A, doing our market share analysis annually, what our market share looks like. And that's the goal of the Checkoff, is to really increase your piece of the pie. So as you're looking at these, know that a lot of this is due to economy fluctuation. And you can see this most recent quarter that we have assessments for, we are down almost 11%, which is pretty on target with what I've been talking to producers about and how they are seeing their markets react to the economy. But the thing that you guys all like to know is how many dollars do you have to spend in your region and nationally. And so this is a breakdown of budgets for 2025 and where we sit today. So you can see their total available on the top. If we go over to Region 4, your total available to you was about 800,000, and that is delineated based off of actual assessments that we receive. 50% go to national, 50% split between the regions based on total assessments received. And then you can see funding that has happened through 2025. So that includes leftovers from any previous years, plus those dollars of 813. And so we have remaining funds that are still available that you will add, that you can add to your 2026 budget. We're working on budget numbers right now. So when you guys look at new programs for the November board meeting, you'll have likely somewhere around an $800,000 new budget to be doing new programs with. And then a quick look at specifically Region 4's collections. You can see as a whole region, you guys collected $434,000. $434,000 in assessments. And then you can see that broken down. We do have some limitations on how far we can break down our assessments based on confidentiality. So if you're grouped together, it just means that you don't meet the criteria to break down farther. But you can see District Green is 214,000 roughly. The orange states are 73,000. Louisiana and Texas can be split. Texas is 134 and Louisiana 13,500. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Alicia.
Awesome. Thank you, Kim, so much. All right, everybody. So we're going to talk about both national and regional programs. As an FYI, we did do a national town hall about a month ago. And in that town hall, we talked a lot about our national programs, and we really went into detail with them. So Mark, here in a minute, will show a slide where you can go and listen to that. So for today, we're going to talk a little bit higher level about our national programs, but then go deeper into the regional programs. But this is a look at the dollars and where we have invested them in. So over the last 2 years, we have invested $13 million into 82 programs. So those are dollars at work to drive that market share. You can see the largest investment. Mark showed those focus areas earlier. You can see the largest investment has gone into marketing, and I'm excited to share more about marketing here in a little bit. But we have our national marketing campaign, which is the beauty of Black. And now every region has also invested regional dollars into that campaign to take that campaign even further. Today, you'll also hear about our Block Design Collective, which is part of our design assistance focus area. And you'll get to meet Lauren, your very own regional director. And so we're excited to share more about this. But $3.5 million total going into design assistance. The next area would be university relations. We've invested $1.4 million into university relations, and this includes curriculum development, research. We do have a program in Region 4 about a research program. So you'll hear about that today. Concrete masonry outreach at $1.46 million. And so concrete masonry outreach, really, this is outreach, promotion, and education of to our high schoolers and to the youth, and to share about the concrete masonry industry and joining our workforce. And so we've invested $1.4 million into concrete masonry outreach. Codes and standards, $1.3 million. I'll share about our national effort, and then Tony will share about our Region 4 effort, and then educating design professionals at $1.2 million. I'm excited to share more about our Block Learning Hub with you guys. Next slide, Megan. So here's the breakout regionally and how you've invested your dollars regionally. So $1 million into 10 programs. You guys are going to hear more about that. Mark and Maroney have been very strategic in leading the RAC and how you guys spend those dollars, and really understanding how the committee wants to spend dollars to drive that market share. So the leading investment into educating design professionals, and then codes and standards, marketing, design assistance, and then university relations. So you'll hear about those programs here in a minute. Mark, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay. Yeah, can we keep it on that slide just for a minute? Thank you for that. We had to make a decision about a year or so ago how we wanted to look at all these areas and how to invest the money. And we could have sat back and put a little bit here and a little bit there and proportionally allocate here, but the RAC felt that it was best if we prioritized the areas that we felt had the best potential to generate a return on that investment. So we kind of adopted an 80/20 principle and began looking heavily at codes and standards, and then at the design assistance level. So a lot of what we're going to talk about and look through in the next couple slides are focused on those two areas. We have completed some programs. So these first 4 programs here, including our 2 design summits and architectural education programs, have been completed. We're just about through with our marketing program for Region 4. Here we'll talk about it a little bit, going through the structural engineering groups, but you can see the dollar value and some of the types of projects that we've been working on, and more importantly, the program leads. And we're fortunate enough today to have Tony, Demetrius on the call today, as well as Aaron, that's going to help explain some of these programs. As you saw on the slide that Kim was showing, we have a little over close to 140,000 that'll be added to the next funding cycle that has remained unspent or uncommitted at this time. These are the programs that were approved at our spring meeting in Oklahoma City, and wanted to let you all see what we're working on for the balance of this year. I will say that new grant submissions are due. I believe it's August 20th. It's mid-August timeframe. So if you have something that you're looking at, please know that that deadline is quickly approaching. And Alicia mentioned that there was more detail offered about the national programs. And if you weren't able to be on the national town hall, I want to take just a minute and let you scan this QR code that'll take you to the national town hall program. And there you can get a much deeper dive into the national programs and how they're working and what progress we're showing on those. Okay. Right. The next phase, and a big part of what we feel is going to move the needle, is the Block Design Collective. And that is headed up by Riley Dvorak. And Riley is going to give us a little insight as to what they've been doing, and also introduce us to Lauren Kennedy. So Riley, if you're available, I'll turn the program over to you.
Sure. Assuming everyone can hear me okay, I'll jump right into it. So my name is Riley Dvorak, the National Director for the Block Design Collective. What we're looking to do with our group, which really fits into the design assistance focus area of the Checkoff, is we're looking to directly influence market share of concrete masonry by engaging the design community. So we're working with architects, engineers, even general contractors and owners to help them make it as easy as possible to understand and use CMU, but also to have a seat at the table when they're making those decisions early on in project stages. We've been doing a lot of work. We developed some content, or we're actually doing a lot of that right now, even that's ongoing. Some of the other things we're working on is developing educational materials and trying to get the word out there through direct presentations to the design community to help educate them on the efficient use of CMU. But two other things that we're building up are our design assistance network, where we can be a unified voice of the industry, that designers don't have to wonder where to go to get assistance, that we can be the one-stop shop that they can call to get answers to their questions. And it gives us an opportunity to build relationships and get involved on projects. And then we also, as I mentioned before, want to have a seat at the table when they're making decisions on what materials they're going to use. We want to make sure that we give CMU every chance that it can to be utilized where we have strengths and we have value to be added to projects. So that being said, we've been busy, we've been working, but we haven't really been shouting from the rooftops that we're out there yet. So we're planning a launch that we can more officially do that. Now, certainly, we're going to have a lot of things that are ongoing. We're going to continue to build our team. But we're targeting a launch in late September this year, where not only are we going to engage you guys more to get you information so that you can be equipped and you can help get the word out, but we're going to have direct communications that we're going to send out to the design community so that they know we're here, they know we're available, and we can really start being that much more effective because we can build all the systems and resources we want, but if no one knows that we're there, we're not going to be very effective. So we're really excited about this next stage. It's going to be pivotal for us to really start moving the needle and making an impact in the market, and specifically Region 4 for you guys. Here's where we're at right now with our KPIs. This is midway through the year, so this is just through Q2. So we're pretty much on track with a lot of things. Where we're lagging behind, as you can see, is projects assisted, which again is something right now we're kind of it's largely variable based on how many people know that we're out there, that we exist. So while we certainly today can offer that. The word isn't out yet, and so we could use your help to let people know that this is available, that designers who have questions can come to us and we'll get them either answer their questions directly or get them connected to a subject matter expert depending on the nature of their inquiry. So we fully expect that we're going to be able to get closer to these goals, and obviously these are year one goals. Our momentum is gonna increase dramatically year over year as we start to build and have the recognition that we're aiming to have in the design community. With that, I'm going to introduce Lauren, who is our most recent hire. So we've hired 3 directors. She is the third of the 5 that we eventually want to hire. But we're very excited to have her on board with us. She comes to the industry she's an engineer, but she also comes with a lot of great ideas and structured thinking, I'll say. And she's been very active right off the bat. I don't think I've seen anyone as active as her, just getting out, hitting the ground running, seeing people and starting to meet and set up important discussions within a region. So if you haven't had a chance to meet her, would highly encourage you. She'll have her contact information at the end of her segment here to talk about specific Region 4 things. I'd really encourage you to reach out, just introduce yourself. It certainly is very helpful for us to know each other as we're going to be working. You're going to be working with her in the coming year and maybe even months. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lauren.
Cool. Thanks, Riley. So as Riley said, I recently joined as the Region 4 Technical Director back in the back end part of May, I think. So I've been on for roughly almost 2 months now. It's been super, super informative. I've tried to get out as much as I can already to learn from everyone, and so I'll continue to kind of do that. A little bit of background about me, just for those of you that haven't met me. I came from the Federal Aviation Administration. I was doing project program management type work for airport infrastructure projects. I did that for about 3 years. And then prior to that, I was a field engineer and a project engineer for two different general contractors. So I've been on site in construction, didn't deal with blocks specifically, but got a really good feel for kind of how engineering gets put into play in the construction realm. And so that was a super good move for me. And then the FAA brought more of kind of that project management experience. So all of that to say, I think that this job really kind of utilizes all of those skills, and I'm super excited to be here and continue on down this path. So for the Block Design Collective, Riley talked about it a little bit, but these are kind of our specific offerings that we are shooting for. So we have these 4 kind of concepts. So online resources, this can include technical documents, design tools, details, sample specs, stuff like that. And I'll have an example of some of this, what this can look like a little bit further on. Education training. So we're obviously going to get out there as much as we can and not only educate, but also utilize, the producers and everyone that we can to help train and educate everyone and kind of have that trickle on down the path as we're proceeding. So this will consist of all kinds of things: conferences, partner events, webinar series, how-tos, all the things. And then design assistance, Riley hit on this a little bit, but this is meant to be a resource for anyone and everyone to be able to seek answers to questions they may have regarding, the application, concrete block construction, like anything that's going on that you need help with. Tino, one of our other regional directors, kind of words this as like, treat me as like the engineer kind of down the hallway in your office. Like if you would go ask that engineer questions, use me as your resource for that, so that we're able to better help you with anything that you need. And then concept proposals. So this is the kind of project proposal thing where we want to hit this from the front end, kind of the preliminary stages of projects, to be able to go ahead and provide a proposal to hopefully insert ourselves to increase the use of concrete block and make it more accessible. So these are kind of the summarized things. Obviously, some of this will happen before others, and we'll continue to build like online resources that'll continue to get built upon as time goes on. But otherwise, we're actively working in the design assistance phase. So anything you guys have now, you can definitely send our way. And then concept proposals as well. We're kind of rolling on some test concepts here, but we're definitely, if you have things that are going on in that space, go ahead and email me or give me a call. We can talk about it. So this is an example. So this would be an example of a standardized detail. This is something that we could provide and have available for people to be able to use. So this is just kind of painting the picture of some of the things that we're going to create over time. And then this is an example of a concept proposal. So this is something that we can do and fully, funded through our dollars, and be able to give you with pricing and kind of this full package to help have this conversation with whomever you're having it with. So some activities to date. So this is what I have done since, May 19th, there's my start date. So onboarding, learning, review resources, this is kind of a no-brainer, but we went to the AIA National Conference in Boston. That was with the whole team and the other regional directors and Riley. That was super good just to get out there and kind of get a feel for the architect space and just kind of how the conversations go. I attended the Oklahoma Engineering Conference with Mark Wilhelms. This was a interesting experience for sure, but it was really good to get to know Mark and talk to some of the people that were there. Traveled to Arizona, so I toured a block plant with Steve, who I'm not sure is on this. Met with the Arizona Masonry Council, met with producers, structural engineers, architects, and contractors. They had this pretty well set up for me to be able to make some introductions. So that was super appreciated, but also it taught me a ton already, just kind of getting out there to be able to do that. And then I also traveled to Houston, met with Tony Topping and the Texas Masonry Council group, met with a group of architects, and then toured the University of Houston Structural Engineering Lab with Demetrios, that's also on this call. So all of this has been super, super informative and good for me to get out there. I'm going to continue this path, which you'll kind of see on the next slide. So 2025 presents. So these are things on my radar right now to do throughout the rest of the year. There'll be some things that come in, but basically I want to get a good feel for, the whole market, the whole region, all the markets within it. And so I'm going to St. Louis next week, and then the Arizona Masonry Council annual meeting as well next week. And then the CMHA mid-year meeting that's in Naples, the TMC, which is the Texas Masonry Council Convention that's in San Antonio, AIA Louisiana. I'm planning to attend to get a feel for the Louisiana market. And then I'm planning to also go to New Mexico. I haven't put that in actual date. That's just like the tentative date there. And then TMS Region 4 board meeting. This is Mark. I think this is on a later slide, that date, but TMS and the Region 4 board meetings sit within the same week. So I plan to attend both of those. And then DBIA is a potential that we're talking about. And there's an AIA Dallas dinner. It's not actually AIA, so that might be a slight typo, but that's something else that I'm going to. And then the Structural Engineering Arkansas Conference that's in Little Rock. So this is kind of what's on my radar right now. If there's certain events or things that anyone has recommendations for, feel free to shoot them my way. But this is what I plan to attend throughout the rest of the year. And then let me help you. So as I mentioned with our project support piece, we really need to be able to help y'all. So therefore we need y'all to send us things. So if you have any sort of questions, upcoming, anticipated projects, issues, questions with projects that are already in construction, or issues, questions with completed projects, like send us anything you got so that we're able to assist. And we want to be able to help and continue to expand the Block Design Collective to reach all of our goals. So there is my contact information. If anyone has any questions at any point, feel free to reach out to me. And then I think it's going to switch to our marketing group.
Yeah. Lauren, thank you. It's quite a schedule for 2 months in. Appreciate your quick learning. John with Clutch is going to lead us through a quick marketing update for 2025. So John, if you're ready, I'll let you take it off.
Thank you, sir. So Beauty of Block, hopefully by now, a good chunk of you are somewhat familiar with the program, but for those of you who aren't, Beauty of Block is our first, nationwide marketing campaign as a unified industry. That maybe doesn't sound like a big deal. It is a big deal, I assure you. So when we were creating that, our research showed that designers already kind of knew Block was strong, and that was sort of a given, but they didn't give it credit for hardly anything else. So the beauty of Block, is it about aesthetics and curb appeal? Sure, but it's also about reducing insurance costs. It's about the sponge effect and being able to sequester carbon. It's about being the local sourced and insulated from some of those supply and trade uncertainties. You can exceed code compliance without adding extra costs. So all those kind of things that come standard with it, that's really what we're trying to celebrate. So in terms of KPIs, so when we think back to the beginning of our first year in market, which was earlier last year, we tried to think, what would success look like if you're starting from nothing? What would it look like if we got out of the gates fast on this thing? So we thought if we achieved the numbers there on the left, we'd be in a pretty good spot. Obviously, we've outpaced those things, and it's good to see that kind of traction. That doesn't mean we're going to rest on our laurels. We're going to recalibrate a little bit and set some new stretch goals, but just really impressed with, again, we're just targeting architects at this point, bringing engineers into the fold, but we like to see those things in the early going. This is the cool thing that excites me, because yes, you have this air cover at a national level, and Beauty of Block is showing up in all sorts of places, but it's really cool to see what each of the regions, the parachuters there, how they're sort of putting their own kind of spin on Beauty of Block and really like taking ownership and making it their own. So when it comes to Region 4, you guys are unique. And as I mentioned, we can't be everything to everyone. So in year one, we decided to focus on architects and Mark and team. And we said, not so fast. I feel better about targeting kind of the structural engineering audience. I feel like we can maybe move the needle more there. And that's the beauty of it. We're able to do that and kind of flex that. So trade shows was a big part of what we're doing. And instead of the huge, mega, national, international shows where it's hard to sort of break through, you spend a lot of money and you get noticed. These ones are smaller in nature, and Mark, correct me, but I think like wanted to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond, and this allowed us to sort of be like the big dog on campus, or like the big fish in the pond. And instead of just having our logo on a lanyard, we were sort of able to be the keynote speaker or the presenting sponsor and just have sort of a bigger impact. So we really like that about this approach. And also it's getting leads from these shows, right? We come back with a lot of contacts that can go into our database, and we can sort of stay connected with these groups going forward. And then here on the right-hand side, this hasn't kicked off in earnest, but just know that we're thinking about this for sort of a continuation or an evolution of what we're doing in Region 4. Other There's been some softening of codes or talks about, sort of bringing back some of these standards and stuff, and we want to fight for that stuff and make sure people are really thinking through the ramifications of that stuff before they do anything. So a little market conditioning there, educating these city managers, municipalities, business owners. That's kind of a slippery slope and something don't want to go down. So we're going to fight for that.
Yeah. Thank you, John. I will add that it's important to know that, one structural engineer might work with 6 different architectural firms. So, it might not be a high number, but the impact we hope is there. And keep in mind too that hockey stick, that branding and creating awareness takes time. Alicia wears a lot of hats in our programs department, and believe it or not, Alicia's going to wear the hat today of codes and standards as well. So, Alicia, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Mark. I'm certainly going to try. I don't think I look much like Nick or Ben, but I have listened to him quite a bit. So,
do you like bourbon? That's all.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, yes, everybody. So we do have a national codes and standards program, and it's ran by Nick Lang and Ben Nantasai from CMHA. And really, their focus is to engage at a national level in codes efforts, and they're focused on 5 areas: structural, fire safety, energy, material science, and environmental technologies. So they're really working to grow our team of subject matter experts that can engage in the codes work and make an impact on a national level. And so, as you can see here, they're really off to a great start this year. So, and this includes some of the KPIs regionally too, which Tony's going to talk about in just a minute. But year 1 goals was to increase voting and forum participation by 2%, and we've already increased that by 20%. Increased subject matter experts by 2%, and we've increased that by 275% with the national effort and the regional efforts that we have happening. Our goal, we were a bit conservative on could we improve codes at a national level. We were a bit conservative on that 1-year goal, but so we had a 0 improvement goal, but we actually have improved 2 national codes at this point. And then similar regionally, as we got started, we didn't know how big of an impact we could make right away, but I'm happy to say we've already impacted regional codes, 4 different regional codes. And then the goal was to have 200 hours engaged in codes work, and we're at 1,320. So that's really exciting progress for year 1. So I'm going to turn it over now to Tony to talk about the regional effort.
Yeah, thank you, Alicia. And so, yeah, the National Codes Program is a great effort going on. And I think industry-wide, we have started to realize that codes and standards are important at every level. And so in Region 4, we decided to start our own codes program here that's separate and distinct, although it works with the national program. But we're really trying to focus on regional and very local matters that can add up to make big changes within the industry. At TMC, at Texas Masonry Council, we have a really long history of working in the codes arena, particularly with cities and towns in Texas. And so we wanted to really take that idea and spread it region-wide. So there's a few things we're trying to do with our codes program here. First is really educating ourselves, educating our industry members and our producers and our contractors and anyone involved in the industry. Why it's important to be involved in codes, how it matters, how it can shape the industry, how it can shape the market. And then once we realize why it's important, help them with the tools they need to actually be engaged. Go engage with their state legislators or their city officials so that we are always making the case that our product and our industry can help their cities, whether it's through resiliency or longevity or durability or tax base. So then we're trying to educate the people that are actually making the policies, from the smallest city council member up to governors of all 8 of our states. That there's so much that is done within policy development that affects the market, affects how we build, and we want to be front and center. We want to be the experts. We want to be the people they call when they have questions about how they should be building. I see a question in the chat about the resiliency message, and frankly, from a codes point of view, I think I get really frustrated that message isn't heard louder. We preach all the time about the resiliency of our product and the way we build, and it seems like sometimes it's just, well, sure, but we have to rebuild right now. And so I can talk about that all day, but that's one thing we're trying to do is educate policymakers on the resiliency of the way we build. And so we're doing that a bunch of different ways. The biggest way is we actually brought in a code consultant, Arc3 Communications, that's doing the bulk of this work. They've done a great job getting out the 8-state region. It's a large region. It's a lot just to tackle and just to be able to make sense of all the different processes in all the 8 states. There's 8 different legislatures in session. There's thousands of towns and cities that we can be working with. So they've done a good job of prioritizing, tracking, and working with the states and the cities throughout the region. So I'll go in a little bit of detail just so we can see kind of the breadth of the project and some of the areas we're working in. Some of these are just some of the KPIs, some of the stats we're tracking around the region. Local ordinances is one thing we're doing, and that's city by city. Each city in the region, sometimes they're very aggressive and they adopt very strict development policies that can benefit us or we can benefit them. And sometimes, like in Texas, we don't have the capability to do that anymore. I'll talk about that in a little bit in a second. But just for instance, in Arkansas, excuse me, Arkansas and the Little Rock market, City of Rogers, they are considering a code amendments to their Unified Development Code that would require more masonry. Sherwood, Arkansas. We have areas in Arizona, Buckeye, Arizona. There's a really neat opportunity actually in the city of Phoenix that ARC3 is following up on. There's a lot of data center construction going around the country, these large tilt wall data center type buildings going up. And a lot of municipalities are kind of frustrated with the way they look. They look like big concrete bunkers. And so there's a kind of a growing trend to put some performance standards in place as they build those. And all those performance standards that are put in place could lead to a lot more use of concrete masonry, structural masonry, and the construction of those types of things. Kansas market's been pretty active lately, especially around Kansas City. A whole host of cities and suburban areas in Kansas and Missouri are looking at different types of masonry standards, masonry ordinances that we're following up on and tracking. Some activity in New Orleans and St. Timothy Parish, Oklahoma City, especially around the Tulsa market. We had a meeting last week about the suburban areas around Tulsa, like Bixby and Jinx, Oklahoma. They've been active in adopting kind of small neighborhood by neighborhood scale masonry ordinances that will help in the long run. And then really what the bulk of this program has been so far, we started this program in January thinking we'd get a rolling start, we'd have some meetings, we'd figure out what our priorities were, go out and start educating people, but that didn't happen. When we started, also, I think 6 or 7 of the state legislatures also started their session, and immediately there were bills filed in multiple states that would really undermine what we could do with masonry standards. And this is a term we should all learn, and we should all always be cognizant of. It's called preemption bills. Historically, in Texas and in most of the Southwest and in the country in particular, cities and local municipalities have had broad control of their development policy. But over the past decade, states have started taking that control back and not allowing cities to develop the way they want to. If they wanted to be fire safe or the tornado safe or flood safe, they want them to default to the base building code at the national level. That happened to us in Texas a few years ago. One of the big things this program is to try to undo some of that. But as soon as this program got kicked off in January, the consultants found bills filed in Missouri, Arizona, and Arkansas that would have done similar things. And honestly, the biggest success of this program so far is that all those bills failed, partly due to our industry reaching out. The consultants were immediately able to launch some public engagement processes, whether it's form emails, particularly in Missouri. They were able to reach out to Mark and the St. Louis Masonry Institute and form partnerships with architects and city planners all throughout the state to really push back on the bills that were filed in Missouri. And before the session was over, those bills either didn't go anywhere or they were significantly changed to where it would to the benefit of the industry. And so things like that happens hundreds or 1,000 times a session in cities, big and small, all across the region. It's a huge task. The consultants have done a very good job of just you just figure out who's who, where's where the bills are being filed, what cities are active that we can work with. And this is really a long-term effort that I think over the next 5 years, we'll start seeing some huge changes and some real benefit to what we're putting our money into. So we have detailed reports on everywhere we're working, everything that's going on. I won't go into the detail. I won't bore you with the details here, but just know if you have questions, what we really need is people to be involved. I tell people this all the time. All of us need to know our local representatives, and we all need to be telling the story about our industry anytime we can get. We have a habit of just knowing our product is good, doing what we do, and no one else is going to tell that story for us unless we do. So get out to know your local representatives, your city council members, shake their hands, call me if you need help. I'll go with you to your meetings. And if we all do it just a little bit, we'll see some big success. So thanks to the consultants for all they've done with it. And really, I hope that everyone on this call can get more involved in this program.
Thank you, Tony. Really appreciate it.
Awesome, Tony. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, go ahead, Alicia. I think you're going to talk about the Block Learning Hub.
I was a lot of really great work happening that Tony's doing. Just as an FYI, if you guys, we are going to drop into the chat a resilience flyer that the Checkoff has developed that you guys can use. It's a Beauty of Block resilience flyer. We've developed that. And then we also have a resilience landing page. So those are two great marketing documents that you guys can use to go and engage in marketing with CMU and our Beauty of Block campaign. All right, our Block Learning Hub, I'm not Heidi Jandris either, but Clutch and our Block Learning and Heidi have launched our Block Learning Hub. This is a learning management system that has, I believe it's 8 courses in it right now, all free courses, brand new, free to you guys, to the AEC community. The AEC community can earn AIA credits and PDHs for free. That's a big deal. So please go to our Beauty of Block website and snag that URL and get it to the AECs so they can start learning more about CMU. You can see the goals here for the Block Learning Hub. We've surpassed many of those. Our goal was to have 1 channel for the year. We've done that. It's our AEC channel. Our goal is to have 2 courses. We've got 8 of them ready to go, many more coming. Right now they're focused on architects, but we have a whole series of engineering courses coming. Our goal was to have 200 accounts built in our learning management system, which is the Block Learning Hub, and we have 246. And then our goal was to reach 2,000 designers this year, and we're well on our way at just over 1,600 designers. So making progress there. And then Mark, if you're okay, I'll just run right into concrete masonry outreach.
Keep going.
Okay, sounds good. Robert Melgard is in the audience today. He's listening in. He's our national director for concrete masonry outreach. And so let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing nationally. It's led by, I said, MCAA and Robert Melgard. The goal is really to educate and inspire high school students to pursue careers in the concrete masonry industry. They're working to equip educators with tools and resources to present career opportunities in the industry, recruit and retain instructors, and maintain a strong presence at career fairs and industry showcases. And then also develop a wall builder and evaluator program that will revolutionize the assessment process They just had a big update to the NCCER curriculum. And so we will have a press release about that, but the MCAA team and Ryan Shaver were very engaged in the update in the NCCER curriculum, which is a nationally recognized curriculum for the trade. So year one goals is to reach 7,700 students. We're at 4,500 now. The goal is to get NCC implemented into one state. We're at 10 now. So surpass that goal, host 8 events. We're at 8. We're at 8 right now. And then really nationally, their goal is for MCCA, for our national outreach program to be self-funded. So right now it's funded through Checkoff dollars. And their goal is through grants, to become self-funded so we can free up those resources to go do something else with those dollars. Okay. I think that's what I've got, Mark.
Okay, thank you. This theme of resiliency is woven in everything we're doing. And one of those research programs that we really wanted to support is work that Demetrius is doing at the University of Houston. And we're supporting phase 1 of this program. And Demetrius, can you talk to us a little bit about your research and what you've been looking at and where you're taking this information about storm surge resilience?
Yes. So the main motivation about this research was related to the resilience of masonry, and that we know to the great degree that masonry performs well under storm surge. But unfortunately, so far, there is a significant lack of experimental research data, not only in the United States, but also worldwide. If you look into the national structures inventory as shown in the figure, and you focus on the Galveston, Texas area, you will see that 18% of the structures are classified as masonry. But if you really look closer to this number, it's practically veneer masonry, clay bricks, not really structural masonry, but it's just a non-structural component system that is classified as masonry. So the focus of what we're trying to do is try to understand how does concrete masonry performs under storm surge events, and also, of course, flooding loads as well. And all that is going to show to the general community of structural engineers and architects that we can reliably and even better use masonry in this areas, and also that its performance is superior against other materials. So next slide, please. So if you try to look at how codes and standards treat basically masonry, there is no code and standard that can guide the design of mason structures for storm surge. Most of the existing standards refer back to AEC 7 on flood load design generally, which has also been upgraded in recent years from 100 year return period of storm surge to 500 return period, which means that now for nearshore areas, designers are going to be designing for higher loads. But most of the standards, the approaches, the structural design have been tailored towards timber structures, not masonry. And this is because over the past 20 years, there has been extensive research on these type of structures in the United States and elsewhere, but no research practically for masonry. Can we go to the next slide? So the first step in our research was to conduct a survey of experts to try to see what experts know about this behavior. Do they think it's important? And if they think it's important, what should we do? This is a picture of our service demographics. So we try to capture experts from different areas, including academics, government officials, consultants, manufacturers, contractors, as well as personnel in non-profit organizations. Based on our survey statistics, we have a 90% confidence interval. Next slide. And this is just an overview without needing to go into a lot of details of how the experts responded. To a degree, the responses were expected in the sense that they feel that they're not very familiar with how masonry performs during hurricanes. So they feel that there is a need to improve this knowledge by specifically developing new standards, developing new way, experimental data that will help us towards these standards and provide general guidance on how masonry should be used and how it can be used. Currently, in fact, there's no prototype of how an elevated masonry structure would look like, and this is what we want to do and develop. Next slide, please. And as expected, what the experts said is that they value the development of design guidelines that can address masonry specifically, and that can be done through testing, laboratory testing. One thing they recommended us to avoid is to rely on guidelines that were developed on related to other hazards, as a seismic, which, as you probably know, there have been a lot of work done over the past 20 years. It's a well-characterized behavior, but they recommended to avoid using such guidelines towards a different hazards, which is a storm surge or flooding. Next slide, please. And this is the after we received the information from the expert, we have designed a small-scale test setup to get some first set of information about the behavior of masonry under flood load. So this is a figure from our wave flume test and how we plan to do the setup. We have already fabricated these walls in our lab. This is small scale to provide the first understanding before we go to large scale and other simulations. Go to the next slide, please. And this is just a summary of where we are, where we're heading. So now we do have a better understanding of what experts need. And based on that, we want to design our experimental learn numerical program to generate the data that we need. Eventually, we expect that, and we want to lead this into a masonry-specific guideline. That could be a code or a guideline that could help engineers visualize how they can use masonry into the design and emphasize that its performance through real data. That is our goal. And of course, even though we are specifically focusing on storm surge and wave loading that relates to nearshore regions, the principles, of course, of our research are generally more applicable to flash flooding and other events related to flooding, which we would plan to investigate as in one of the future phases.
Yeah, thank you, Demetrius. And connecting the dots here. When this research is done, this could easily be handed over to Tony's efforts on codes and standards. And in our part of Missouri, people are always wanting to build in floodplains because the land's flat and cheap and such. And we could easily begin to take these guidelines and say, if you're going to build here, you need to build per these standards. And designing resilient structures and putting them in the right place is huge. So, and it takes time to do the research. We're fortunate enough to have somebody that loves concrete masonry at the University of Houston, and we can't thank you enough. I know Allison was on the call a bit ago, but I'm going to talk to some work that the St. Louis Masonry Institute is doing. And for probably 20 years, they've been running a in-person education seminar every month. They have engineers, they have 1 week, they have architects the next week, and they have code officials quarterly. And they've drawn over a year, well over 2,000 unique individuals to these events. And each one of their programs is being recorded and posted to the YouTube channel. And Allison's been working on it now for a year, and it's great energy. And I wanted you all to be aware of it on the next slide, that this YouTube channel exists. We're working with Allison now that she's captured this content to, we're going to work with the Education Hub and get a link to these programs put up on the Education Hub. And there's really the top tier engineers and architects that design masonry around the country and help write the masonry code come to this event because they know it's a high quality program. So if you're not familiar, if you have scouring around on YouTube and you want to look and see what their offering is, please go to the Masonry Institute of St. Louis and look at their YouTube channel. I think you'll be impressed by the amount of work they've done, and Checkoff is helping support this initiative. So, I'm not sure. I didn't see Dawn's name on there, but Tony, would you be able to speak to this Masonry Design Summit, which was our second event that our region funded?
Yeah, I think here's a quick video that we'll show, and then I'll do a little follow-up.
Okay.
Hosted by Arizona Masonry Council and RAC 4 of the Masonry Checkoff. The Masonry Design Summit brought together architects, engineers, students, and industry professionals from across the Southwest. Over 3 days, attendees explored the evolving role of masonry in modern design. Through architectural tours, educational sessions, and hands-on workshops. This summit wasn't just about materials. It was about collaboration, innovation, and building a stronger future together. The Masonry Design Summit was driven by a shared purpose, bringing experts and attendees together to exchange ideas and elevate design. Surrounded by inspiration, the event sparked conversations that bridged experience, design, and discovery. Every session was a chance to learn, reflect, and leave with something new, building better by thinking bigger. We stepped into the process, touring a local block plant to see where innovation begins and materials take form. Then, tools in hand, attendees connected with the craft, laying mortar, setting block, and witnessing the rhythm of the trade. Through iconic structures and inspired details, our architectural tours remind us why masonry endures, as both material and message. The summit blended tradition with forward thinking, giving attendees a fresh lens on masonry's future.
I mean, it's growing, but I think this thing could grow and grow.
I did not know the sequestering of carbon within CMU blocks. That was our most recent keynote speaker. Mm-hmm. Everything in that presentation was totally mind-blowing, a little bit over my head, but I did my best. And our keynote speaker, Heidi, she did a very good job kind of explaining it and, you know, diluting it to someone who that's not at all in my wheelhouse.
The versatility, being able to use it on so many different types of applications, I think is amazing.
I'm excited to see how masonry can be advanced with environmental, ideas kept in mind, and how we can see how that can impact the construction process in architecture and in construction. Mm-hmm.
I think masonry is endless. I mean, it's just up to the limit of the creativity of the people that are working with it. I think that masonry can go a lot of different directions. It can do a lot of different things. It's our job to get creative and use it in unique ways to bring it back and showcase what masonry can really do.
Because I think the video shows told us a lot of what we need to know. Architects love this event. Architects even love this event even more, but due to the fact that they're there with industry, they're there with producers, they're there with academics, and they are there with our contractors. I highly recommend everyone on the call send an architect to this. Checkoff pays for their travel to come to this. So if you're a contractor on the call and you have certain architects you work with a lot, or you have architects that are designing poorly or not out of masonry, send them to this. Call me and I'll get them there. I think the RAC has decided this should be a yearly event going forward. It was hosted in Texas year 1, New Mexico year 2. We'll bring it back. We polled all the architects in New Mexico, and they really wanted to come to Austin this year. So we're trying to host the next one at the University of Texas at Austin. That relationship and hosting it at a university is also a huge portion of this, because it gets the student architects and student engineers involved. And frankly, I think the best thing we can do is educate young architects, young engineers about masonry, because that will have a career's worth of benefit to us going forward. So this will be a yearly event going forward. There is funding to send architects and engineers to this. Don't be shy about calling me or anyone else involved in the RAC and getting your local architects at the event. The next one should be at UT Austin, should be probably next fall. So if you have any questions, let us know about it.
Thank you, Tony. Last one, a lot of what we're doing in the outreach side for design professionals is getting students engaged. And we are going to be sending structural engineering students to the Masonry Society annual meeting. That's why we decided to host our next RAC meeting in Oklahoma City just a few days before. So we started in, I think it was around March timeframe of getting students, and deadline is approaching next Monday, Tuesday. And just really excited about how this one little event that I think costs us about $15,000 is getting students engaged and aware of TMS. So little thing, but could have a huge impact. I mentioned at the beginning of the program how important Maroney is to our RAC, and Maroney has worn a couple different hats from the sales side and the contractor side, and it's just been a real honor to have his leadership. And he's going to wind us up here today and talk about ways that you all can get involved. So Maroney, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Mark, and thanks everyone for joining. We'll get this wrapped up in just a few more minutes. I want to start off by extending a big thank you to all the panelists for all their efforts and for contributing today. One of the things that I've been the most impressed with as I've worked with the RAC is just the willingness of all the RAC 4 members to take action on the initiatives that benefit the region as a whole. It's refreshing to see the trust and the collaboration that is developed within the group, and I'd like to give a nod to Mark, Coulter, and Tony for really leading the way in that effort and helping us establish a really solid culture within our team. The result of that collaboration is all of that great work that we've been sharing with you here today. And we all hope that you're pleased, encouraged, and motivated by the work that's being done. To echo what several have said already today, there is so much to be done, and we need everyone's help to keep the momentum building. So some of the ways that you can share, that you can contribute are by sharing your databases so that we can better spread the word. So that when we think about those databases, we're talking about your contacts in the architectural, engineering, and contractor community, your producer networks, and any other industry databases. There's a lot of great content. There's a lot of great efforts, and we want to get that shared as widely as possible. So if you can share that with us, that's a great step. Another great step is to drive that AEC community to that Block Learning Hub and to the Design Collective. Riley, Lauren, and the team are they're just dying to help and have impact there. Another note on the Block Learning Hub is any content or expertise that you can share helps us to build that learning hub into that comprehensive resource that we intend for it to become. So please, anything that you have, whether they might be case studies, knowledge, anything that you can share, we'd like to include that there. And then there's opportunities for you to engage with us by partnering in promotional events for the Beauty of Block campaigns. Trade shows are one of the first things that we started with that in our initial push, but there's more things in the works, and we're open to any ideas that you might have or any help that you're willing to contribute in your specific markets. No one knows your markets like you do that are in them. So please know that it is important to all of us that we make sure that we are giving each of the markets attention, and we need to hear from you so that we can do that, go about that the right way. And then, of course, sharing all the updates with your networks, social networks, in person, all that good stuff. please share everything that we're producing, creating early and often. So some of the upcoming regional town halls are listed here. We'll pause for a little bit in case anyone wants to scan that QR code and get registered for any other regions that they might be interested in participating in. These are our 2025 upcoming meetings. The one that we'll highlight here is our next RAC 4 meeting. It is actually on the 15th and 16th of October in Oklahoma City. We've set that up so that anyone that's attending the TMS meetings can attend that as well easily. Right. We'll pause here for a second as well. There is an open board seat, so if you qualify and are interested in being a part of the board, please scan and apply. And then this code here will take you to the producer portal. That's been established as our hub, where we can access everything from board meeting materials, marketing materials, the different reports that are produced by the programs. That's your one-stop shop for everything that's being created, everything that's being developed. So scan there and you should be able to access it. If you have any issues with any of that, please reach out and we can help you get in there.
If you want to buy your own swag, you can go there to buy swag. I know Alicia shared the resiliency flyer, so you can go there and find those type of things. So yeah, Moroni, that's becoming a big resource for our industry. Guys, when you talk for about an hour and 15 minutes and really it's really condensed, and when you consider that we've just really stood this thing up in 2023 and we've accomplished where we're at today, it's pretty impressive, and we're doing it. We're all lifting and trying to make this work out the best for everybody. Compliments to Kim and your team of Alicia and Riley and the Clutch team. I think Moroni will join me in saying thanks for all your efforts and leadership on this. I think we're beginning to build some momentum, and I'm looking forward to seeing that hockey stick curve really take off. So we'll hang around a little bit. If anybody wants to enter any questions in the chat box, please do so. We'll stay here for a little bit, but if not, if you need to run, thanks so much for listening in today. Really appreciate your time.
Well, Mark, while we're waiting on any questions that might be coming in, I do want to thank you and Moroni for your leadership. I think it's been critical for Region 4 getting a really strong start and launching some initiatives that probably will lead the way for other regions around the country. So thank you both for all you're doing, and thank you to our panelists that are kind of the boots on the ground, really getting the work done for the programs in Region 4.
Looks like everybody was happy with what we presented. Thanks, Elizabeth. It makes me really proud to be able to get on these and show what activity we've had, and just pushing for that resiliency of being transparent in everything that we do. So I'm glad we take the time to do these. And special thanks to Demetrios, and you got such a busy schedule, and yet you're always so gracious with your time, and you're concerned for our industry. So thank you so much. Love hearing what you're doing. Well, guys, I think that's about it. Thank you all. And Megan and John, thanks so much for putting this slide deck together.